In 1953, because of a lack of debate and diplomacy, the first democratically elected government in Iran was overthrown, changing the course of their sovereignty and straining their relationship with the Western countries over the course of the decades that followed. Earlier that year, with near unanimous support from the parliament, Iranian Prime Minister Mosaddegh nationalized the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Due to this, Britain lost a major source of revenue in oil. They would go to extremes to get control of Iran's oil back. Iran's oil industry had been under British control since 1901, when Mosaddegh ad-Din Shah sold the rights to obtain, develop, and exploit all oil for a term of 60 years to Britain. Iran was in a deep financial crisis, and Mosaddegh ad-Din Shah hoped to fix it by selling various Iranian industries and markets, including Iran's oil rights and textile companies. The foreign control angered the Iranian people. However, no protests happened until 1905, when two local merchants trying to make a living were jailed for pricing their sugar above the government's price control standard. This began a chain reaction, and the Iranian people began to revolt. The protesters quickly gained power over the government, and sensing their newfound power, demanded that a national parliament be formed. The Shah was forced to agree for fear of being overthrown, but he did not follow through. The country once again fell into turmoil, and in August 1906 the Shah finally formed a parliament, called the Majlis, but under one condition, that all laws be approved by him. A date for the election of the 200-seat Majlis was quickly set. Mohammad Mosaddegh, the only child of a prominent tribesman, is born in Tehran. At age 10, his father dies. When he turns 15, in honor of his father's service to the crown, he is appointed to his father's old job, the chief of finance. At age 24, he is asked to be on the Majlis. However, he does not meet the age requirement and withdraws his name. He quickly becomes an important political figure known for his honesty and fairness. In 1919, the British imposed the Anglo-Persian Agreement on all of Iran. This ensured that the British had control of Iran's army, treasury, and communications network. This outraged the people, and by 1921, Iran was ready for a new government. On the evening of February 21, 1921, Reza Khan, who was a general in the military, led 2,000 men to Tehran and overthrew Mosaddegh ad-Din Shah. He named himself the new Shah. Reza Shah soon began a campaign of terror upon the country. He wanted to be the only ruler, so he disenfranchised the Majlis. Many people were against his ideas, like Mosaddegh, so he threw them all in jail. He was widely regarded as a cruel dictator. However, he also passed a lot of important reforms that helped him return power to Iran. His reign ended in 1941, when Britain and Russia decided to overthrow him because political reforms were making Iran too powerful. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, replaced him. In 1943, Mosaddegh, now an important political figure, was elected to the newly enfranchised Majlis. In 1950, the Majlis asked him to run for Prime Minister. He accepted, and on April 28, 1951, he was elected Prime Minister. Over the next couple of months, he began to take the country back from British control, starting with stripping the Shah of his power and then nationalizing the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. After hearing about this, Britain ordered a trade embargo on Iran so that they would be forced back under British control. In a move of diplomacy, Iran took Britain to the World Court to get them to lift the embargo. After months of debating, the World Court told Britain to raise the embargo. Soon, Iran was back to selling oil to the rest of the world. Britain, who was now out of options, realized that their only way to regain power in Iran was to overthrow Mosaddegh. Unfortunately, after winning the case at the World Court, Iran had kicked all British citizens out of the country. Because of this, they didn't have enough resources in Iran, so they turned to the US for help. President Truman declined to help them. However, a new president was elected in 1952, and he happily agreed to help. Eisenhower agreed to covertly overthrow the Iranian Prime Minister so as to avoid bringing up the subject for contentious debate. The newly formed CIA sent Kermit Roosevelt to Tehran to oversee and plan the operation. Upon arriving, he chose General Fazlollah Zahedi to take Mossadegh's place as Prime Minister. He then visited the Shah many times in the Imperial Palace, wanting to sign the papers that would make Mossadegh's overthrow official. The Shah kept refusing because he thought the coup would fail and he didn't want to be seen a traitor. It was only when the CIA offered to help him regain complete control of the government did he agree. Roosevelt set the date for the coup attempt, August 15th. As night falls in Tehran, Roosevelt's plan begins. General Riahi, the head of the military, who was loyal to Mosaddegh, has heard about the coup attempt from an unknown source. He hurries to Mossadegh's home and tells him of it. Unaware of this, the Hedi soldiers proceed with their plan. They head to the homes of General Riahi and many other important government officials to arrest them. They are all home except General Riahi, so after arresting them, they proceed on. On arriving at Mossadegh's home to arrest him, they meet up with his personal guard and have a small firefight. The rebels are quickly overpowered and arrested. All the prisoners are set free and the city is calm by the next morning. When they heard about this, the CIA ordered Roosevelt and all other Americans out of Iran while they can still get out. Roosevelt asked to stay, saying that he thought he still had a chance at overthrowing the government. The CIA let him stay. Mobs hired by Roosevelt marched toward the city center, destroying everything they see. The Iranian people, angry that their city is being destroyed, start protesting against the paid mobs, which creates even more confusion. When the paid mobs come upon Mossadegh's home, they start attacking it. His personal guards fight back, and they defeat the paid mobs. But suddenly, General Zahedi shows up with tanks and soldiers and starts fighting against Mossadegh's guard. Zahedi destroys the whole house in hours and kills everyone inside. However, no one can find Mosaddegh, who jumped the back wall hours earlier. With Mosaddegh deposed, Zahedi declared himself the new prime minister, and Reza Shah's supreme power reinstated. After a couple of days, for an unknown reason, Mosaddegh surrendered himself. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and lived under house arrest for the rest of his life, and died at home on March 5, 1967. Roosevelt returned to the U.S. at the end of August and lived out the rest of his life there. The Iranian coup was his last assignment with the CIA, and he was commended as a hero for his work in Iran. He died on June 8, 2000. After only 2 years of ruling, Zahedi was sent into exile. This was because Zahedi believed that the prime minister should be free to rule his own government, not controlled by the Shah. Zahedi lived out the rest of his life in exile in Geneva, Switzerland. After exiling Zahedi, Reza Shah took total control and was ruler until the 1979 Islamic Revolution, when he was deposed by the Islamic clergy. He was also exiled and died in Egypt in 1980.
But despite the success of Operation Ajax, the agent who pulled it off, Kermit Roosevelt, issues a warning.
I said, don't make the mistake of believing that this can be done anytime you want to do it.
But his warning falls on deaf ears. Alan Dulles is already thinking about the next threat.
In the 58 years since the coup, relations between the US and Iran have grown steadily worse because we chose not to engage in debate and diplomacy and instead forcefully overthrew the first democratically elected government. In the first 26 years after the coup, the US got everything they wanted: oil and influence in the Middle East. But after the Islamic Revolution in 1979, the people and government, still angry from 1953, ended all that the US had put into place. This has resulted in destabilization and the loss of an important ally in the region, a rise in terrorism, and a setback for the growth of democracy in the Middle East. But most importantly, it has led to the deterioration of human rights and has slowed economic development in the region. When the Iraq War started, the US stated it was trying to bring democracy to the Middle East. Would we be struggling with this if we had not overthrown Mosaddegh? Would the recent uprisings in the Middle East be happening if the US had stayed out of Iran 58 years ago? What are our motives for our current policies in the Middle East? Are we truly trying to spread democracy and peace, or are we just protecting our interests in the region? We need to ask ourselves what we want to accomplish in the long term to promote everyone's welfare, and not just try and do what will help the US right now. In another 58 years, how will it be perceived by everyone in the Middle East?